I forgot what like even a little bit of happiness feels like. I straight up forgot, because everything is always so bad, so awful all the time. And, you know, you got horrifying Trump cabinet picks. Israel is doing man-made horrors beyond human comprehension every single day in Gaza and in Lebanon as well, with seemingly no legal recourse whatsoever, and seemingly no end. No one cares about it in the Western world, and that's what it feels like, at least. Or our politicians are like actively undermining the people that are speaking out against this sort of thing. And then all of a sudden you get these like news back to back to back. Okay, you get these news back to back to back to back, and it's like, oh my God, let me be happy for a moment, you know. And you should too. You should experience a moment of joy and elation, because this is a little bit of breathing room, you know. This is a little reminder, okay? A brief moment of humanity being restored. A reminder that, like, you're not insane, okay? That, no, we are led by villains, okay? We are led by bad people. We are led by villains who are actively undermining their own humanity, who are actively making it seem like, you know, Israel's actions are not significant nor consequential, that no punishments will ever be dished out towards them. Today is the first step towards hope, okay? Satan Yahoo, baby. Pack watch, okay? I forgot. 3 Rosmian, thank you for the 100 gifted. Stop giving a shit. Thank you for the 20 gifted subs. It's definitely a good day for humanity, moving in the direction, albeit marginally. Okay, albeit marginally, moving in the correct direction. Now, let's just get started on what we're gonna do. We're gonna do reactions in a second, but I think honestly, you know, one more time, I think. Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs from all around the world, as of today, the arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court for war criminals, Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and War Criminal Defense Minister of Israel, Yoav Gallant, have officially been filed. They are now officially war criminals who will not be able to go to any of the ICC countries under the Rome Statute without fear of being arrested, only to be put on trial at The Hague. That's right. For once, these institutions, these international institutions of justice, for once, have shown resilience, have shown a backbone, a moral backbone, and done the right thing. Do you understand? Lock them up! Lock them up! That's right. Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant are now officially declared war criminals. And we're going to be looking at the State Department reactions in a brief moment. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Oh, we have the self-proclaimed reporter whose uncle's news network after the Turkish group responsible for the Armenian genocide happens to be the voice of genocide only when it happens to be against a particular faith. If they're, you know, Tibetan, this is Palestine. Your war criminals will forever be branded as what they are, my friend. You can cope. You can seethe. Today, the International Criminal Court said the baby killing must end. Cry harder, you Nazi! Cry harder, you Nazi piece of shit. Here, I got another one for you. Oh, suck my Turkish cock, bitch. You little Nazi baby. Ooh, I'm mad. Palestine. Some of the most defenseless people out there on the planet, completely written off by the rest of the supposed intellectuals of the Western world, and you're over here flexing in the eve of any sort of decency coming from any sort of European institution. I never thought I would ever see the day in my whole damn life. Ironic also coming from a person who was defending Israel. I have never denied the Armenian genocide. Israel has. Just saying.
أنا لأهلي أنا فديهم أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 أنا دمي فلسطيني على أرض تلاقي أنا لأهلي أنا فديهم والله أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 أنا دمي فلسطيني.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Me and Brace Belden, hand in hand, citizen's arrest for the International People's Tribunal against the war criminals Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. This ideology is so weird. What ideology? Being against genocide? That's not a weird ideology. I guess it's weird if you're so used to permanent genocide being the normative position, you know? But I am not. Regardless of how normalized it is, I will always fight against that sort of thing. So you look extra Turkish today. I know. I noticed that I am looking particularly like very Arab unk coded or very Turkish unk coded. Anyway, I mean, this is my dad's jacket. So, all right, let's get it started.
We interrupt our programming on Al Jazeera to bring you some breaking news. And the International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for alleged war crimes in the Gaza Strip. It's also issued warrants for Hamas leader Mohammed Diab al-Masri. Let's bring in Step Basin, who's on the phone from The Hague, where those arrest warrants were issued. Talk to us about what the rejects for these warrants say. Step.
The court has just issued these arrest warrants, 3 arrest warrants, one for Hamas leader known as Dave, and 2 for the Israeli leaders Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. The arrest warrants are for crimes against humanity and war crimes committed from at least October 8, 2023, until the request for the arrest warrants was issued by the prosecutor 6 months ago on May the 20th. There have been some really serious delays for issuing these arrest warrants. There was a lot of questions about if the ICC was capable of doing so, despite a lot of rejections by the parties that are involved in the ICC, especially also from Europe, from Germany, but also Israel has very much tried to avoid this by filing all kinds of complaints. But the ICC has now decided to reject these complaints, and they have said that these arrest warrants should now be issued.
And indeed, there had been also a great deal of pressure step on the ICC not to issue these warrants, particularly on the Israeli government, the Israeli leadership. Why has the court chosen to do so now?
Well, the case is that now there is a new presiding judge of the pre-trial chamber that was issuing these arrest warrants. The previous presiding judge has informed the court that she was sick, that there was a medical issue. So she recently stepped down after months of basically investigating the case, and suddenly she disappeared from the case. And then a new presiding judge, a French judge, is now holding this case. And very quickly after the previous judge stepped down, this decision has now been taken. So this also gives us some answers on these delays, where basically also...
Real me dumb American, but why the f*** isn't the U.S. a part of the ICC? What do you mean, dog? International organs of justice and the United Nations are simple tools of American hegemonic power, okay? Or at least historically, they have been used as tools for the West to enact whatever its agenda is. Unequal extraction of natural resources from the global South, permanent war against America's enemies or against enemies of the West, okay? But today is a different day. As America's power on the global stage wanes, many Americans are terrified of the prospect of a Chinese future, okay? But in the interim period, given Israel's unconscionable actions, given the Israeli government's inhumanity and consistent violence, unending violence, regardless of America's protection, America's attack dog gets at least one mark on its track record, on its otherwise stainless history. Okay? These institutions do not work against America or its allies. This is the first ever instance in my lifetime where I have seen this. Okay. This is fantastic. Okay. This is fantastic. America can try to consistently defend Israel throughout this process, as they have and they will. But this directly puts them at odds with many reasonable, moral people in Europe that look towards this, okay? Not just in your lifetime. It's the first time since World War II it's been used against a Western nation. And I mean, that's when it was created. Like, feeling this tweet right now? Yeah, firm believer in international rule-based order right now until Biden nukes The Hague. It is regarding Fox News characterizing you as an American hater. It's funny because you express strong critiques for all manners of nations, including China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia. It turns out you just have an unshakable moral compass and there's no home for us anywhere. I know. And it's not that there's no home for us anywhere. It's that I want to fix the home that I'm in. Okay? Western nation in the center of the Middle East. Brother, if you think Israel is not simply an extension of the United States of America and its imperial ambitions in the region, I don't know what to tell you. You might have been in a home over the past year. Okay? Hello? Israel is America. Just letting you know. Israel is not just any Western nation. It is America. It is an extension of the United States of America. America says jump, Israel says how high, which is precisely the reason why all this Biden is so powerless in the face of Benjamin Netanyahu. Conversations were so goddamn frustrating for me because, yes, that's what it looked like. And Bibi was dog walking him for sure and taking advantage of his senility and his also rabid Zionism. Having said that, however, ultimately, this was still a part of America's imperial ambition, and I think they overstepped. This is why I said Palestine and Israel's genocide over Palestinians has laid bare for all to see the Western world's depravity, okay? Straight up, things are changing. The entire world is witnessing a in my opinion, very consequential change in the way things have worked so far. Is the arrest warrant released after the SA case at the ICJ? No. The International Court of Justice prosecutes nations. The International Criminal Court prosecutes people. So the ICC prosecution is for individuals, okay? It's for individuals that happen to be in charge of nations doing a genocide. Benjamin Netanyahu, ICC warrants are anti-Semitic and are absurd and false lies, contrary to a true lie, I guess, so it's true. Oh, and for the record, a lot of people say, Hasan, you say America bad, but why do you always say America bad, but you never follow it up? Well, those people go, la, 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 I can't hear you when I follow it up. Okay? You must understand something very important right now. It is not an accident that every single senator and every single congressperson in the United States of America, with the exception of like a handful, are currently tweeting like they're Sephiroth. They're all out there tweeting like anime villains. They're baying for blood. They're seeing red. They're like, we have to nuke The Hague. Down to the wire, down to the likes of Thomas Cotton. The ICC is a kangaroo court and Kareem Khan is a deranged fanatic. Woe to him and anyone who tries to enforce these outlaw warrants. Let me give them all a friendly reminder. The American law on the ICC is known as the Hague Invasion Act for a reason. Think about it. Whoo, they're cackling all right. God damn. God damn. I misspelled villain because I was so excited. I fixed it. Shut up. Holy just saying that out loud. Tom Cotton has literally talked about using the military on Black Lives Matter protesters, wrote about it on the New York Times. Tom Cotton has also talked about killing pro-Palestinian protesters and climate change protesters. Tom Cotton does not give a He is a straightforward Nazi. Tom Cotton, very famously, if you guys recall, was the guy who pulled up the Singaporean CEO of TikTok to be like, what kind of Chinese are you, boy? How Chinese are you, boy? You know, that sort of thing. He is a virulent, racist piece of shit. Now, I will not be posting the Shinzo Abe tweet that I very famously once posted about Tom Cotton because I don't want to get in trouble. Of course, only Americans believe they are the good guys, even in Europe, across all political spectrum. I've seen people shit on the USA. Yes, and it is well deserved. It is well deserved. For those who like to, for all the America good actually understanders, this is going to be a very hard day of cope. They will turn around and say, oh, America's still good. The ICC, maybe they are anti-Semitic. Maybe they're Hamas. Maybe they got Hamas tunnels under there, you know? Anyway, The U.S. rejected the warrant. We knew that they were going to reject the warrant. They have been actively pressuring the ICC's warrant application to not go through until this very moment. So that is not surprising to me, nor is it shocking to me. America can say whatever the it wants. They will cope and they will seethe. Okay? EU Secretary of State. Oh God, I'm so hard right now. I'm not even hard. I'm just elated. Okay.
أنا لأهلي أنا فديهم أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 أنا دمي فلسطيني على أرض تلاقيني أنا لأهلي والله أنا دمي فلسطيني.
Fuck you if you defend Israel, okay? Suck my dick. Oh my God. All right. Oh, so good. So good. Oh, I feel so good. We're playing propaganda again? Yes. This is a very famous pro-Palestinian song. So, of course, it's inherently going to be considered anti-Semitic because the existence of Palestine and the existence of Palestinians and any sort of mention of Palestine or Palestinians is inherently anti-Semitic according to those who choose to silence any sort of criticism. So do they also disagree with the decision to issue warrants against Hamas leaders? No, that part also is like so inconsequential in the grand scheme of things because that part is expected. The unexpected part is that someone that is firmly within the American sphere of influence, but not necessarily just in the American sphere of influence, but also protected by the American government so thoroughly, could ever be declared a war criminal. This is unique. This is new. This is a welcomed correction. Okay? Oh my God! Also, most of the Palestinian leadership that they declared war criminals for October 7 have been assassinated by Israel regardless. So this was this is exactly what I thought as well. State Department press briefing canceled for today. Oh no. Oh no. Yeah, Ana Dammi Falastini means my blood is Palestinian, by the way. Please do not laugh at this. State departments only do this when they are in great distress. Okay, citizens arrest time, baby. Citizens arrest time, baby.
Buying time because now with the new judge, apparently there was no more hesitation and he took this decision together with two other judges.
Remind our viewers, Step, of what the Israeli government and his former defense minister, as well as the Hamas leader, who's also been issued an arrest warrant with, what exactly are they being accused of?
Yeah, these are the crimes against humanity and war crimes. And what the prosecutor really laid out last May was that starving the population of Gaza was a very important point for him to ask for these arrest warrants, but also...
Something I noticed in my EU country subreddit suddenly seemed to be much more pro-Palestine after this warrant. Typical shit. Just a week ago, it was people who are pro-Israel. Yeah, a lot of liberals do care about these institutions, okay? They have not had the same cynical framework that I have been operating with because I wasn't just cynical. I was just realistic about the way things work, right? So, of course, they do care about that sort of thing. So it'll be much, much, much harder for them, I think, to defend this.
The fact that there have been murders, attacks, of course, from the Israeli army. But one of the things that really stood out was the fact that the Israeli authorities and the Israeli army have been starving the population of Gaza, and that's something that's a very specific war crime that also has already some experience at the ICC in previous cases. So I think the prosecutor hopes that there will be a lot of evidence that he can use to prove this case.
Okay. We know that Israel doesn't accept the jurisdiction of the ICC, doesn't recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC. So what will this mean for this case against the Israeli leadership, Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant?
This will mean that every country that is part of the ICC, and from the top of my head, these are now 40 countries, they have the obligation to arrest Netanyahu, Gallant, and Dave when they come across these individuals. So this will mean in practice that it's going to be very difficult for Netanyahu to travel, and Galland as well, to travel abroad, because the countries that are members of the ICC, for example, Germany, the UK, a lot of European countries as well, but also countries across the globe, have the obligation to arrest them and hand them over to The Hague, to the court.
Okay, Steph, for the moment, thank you very much.
Ali, great to have you with us. First, has there been any reaction to this so far in Israel?
I'm losing my mind, dude. I'm losing my mind. I'm shocked. Okay, I'm shocked. I'm actually straight up surprised in the most pleasant way possible. I saw that article like last week or 2 weeks ago when Mossad was trying to do a last ditch effort, and they were like, "Hey, why don't we just like say Karim Khan is actually doing rapes all the time?" The prosecutor that, ironically enough, and this is the ICC prosecutor that was replaced originally, it was a lady by the name of Bensouda, who was literally straight up intimidated by Mossad. This is all straight up real that Israel did for even daring to investigate Israel's war crimes. So this has been an ongoing incident, okay, for a long time. The ICC, the International Criminal Court, was investigating Israel for apartheid and for war crimes for quite a while. The person who was prosecuting them potentially was harassed, intimidated, surveilled, and Benjamin Netanyahu got Donald Trump to place sanctions on her individually. It was insane. So then America and Israel were like, let's put a different guy on there. Let's put our guy on there, a guy that we like. His name, Karim Khan. Okay, these clips out of context are going to go wild on Fox News. Oh, yeah? They're going to be like, Hasan supports terrorism because he's celebrating the International Criminal Court actually doing real prosecutions for once? Really? Okay. Wow, that's crazy, man. I can't believe my haters that say I want to do 9/11 over and over again are going to use this as an opportunity to yell about me again. It does not matter. The truth does not change. This is what I tried to explain to people yesterday when we were reading the Fox News cancel piece, the hit piece. Yeah, look at that. Look at the retaliation. Award-winning investigative journalists fighting for the truth. ICC judges, we know that in reality we don't have jurisdiction, but let's try and arrest the Jews anyway. The ICC's a anti-Semitic kangaroo court. No, they want to arrest us for doing a bit of war crimes. Oh, in it, I'm an investigative reporter. By the way, we're going to be covering the harrowing nature of Israel's crimes once again, but something to remember. Israeli Prime Minister also called it a anti-Semitic. The anti-Semitic decision of the International Criminal Court is a modern Dreyfus trial and will end the same way. Israel utterly rejects the false and absurd charges of the International Criminal Court, a biased and discriminatory political body. No war is more just than the war Israel has been waging in Gaza since October 7, 2023, when Hamas terrorist organization launched a murderous assault and perpetrated the largest massacre against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. The decision to issue an arrest warrant against the prime minister was made by a corrupt chief prosecutor who was trying to save himself from sexual harassment. See, this is what I mean. Bro, immediately, they were like, what can we do here? What can we do about Karim Khan? Oh, he's a sexual assaulter, actually. And it was funny because, like, even Western media that normally would, jump to cover these sorts of things because they love this sort of were like, yeah, while we want to take the allegations seriously, the timing of them were quite interesting, and it could be potentially a made up by Israel. Like, come on, dude. He said, calling us war criminals for doing a genocide is anti-Semitic. Also, you're a sexual harasser. The ICC prosecutor lied when he told American senators that he would take no action until he had visited Israel and heard its side. Instead, he canceled his arrival in Israel last May, several days after suspicions of sexual harassment were made against him, and announced his intention to issue arrest warrants against Prime Minister and former defense minister. No anti-Israel decision will prevent the state of Israel from defending its citizens. Notice how he's mentioning sexual harassment twice now. Okay, It's just like, I think the sexual assault allegations are actually credible, but it's obviously irrelevant as to whether Netanyahu's guilty. Look, man, all I'm going to say is this, okay? It has no bearing on Karim Khan's prosecution of Israel, okay? It's also rather odd coming from the state that literally was like, oh, we might actually get in trouble. Let's use complementarity to our advantage and prosecute some of the people that were doing mass rapes in the prisons. And then they couldn't even do that because they had an armed January 6th style rebellion where they forcibly freed the rapist and made him a television star. The Israeli Knesset members turned around and were like talking about how, you know, yeah, no, you don't understand. Actually, the IDF does have a right to rape Palestinians. The fuck are you talking about? Get the fuck out of here. They had a rape January 6th, man. The fuck do you mean? Some of you have no way of looking at a situation like this and immediately jump to like whatever. Like it works for a lot of you. Look, I've never read a Western media report, okay, that immediately was like, there was sexual harassment allegations, but the timing of that is very suspicious, considering how much Israel has tried to intervene in the ICC. Like, I'm sorry. They could be credible. They could, okay? But if you think this has any bearing on this prosecution, you are delusional and you're the biggest goddamn mark, the biggest sucker, the biggest rube of all time, okay? Ridiculous. Anyway, it's like the former prosecutor, they literally personally harassed the former prosecutor before Karim Khan. You understand that, right? Like they surveilled the former prosecutor before Karim Khan. They got America to place sanctions on the former prosecutor before Karim Khan. And you have to remember, it's not just Karim Khan either. Yeah, they were stalking her. I covered it extensively. Israeli spy chief threatened ICC prosecutor over war crimes inquiry. They tapped her phones to see exactly what she was actually going to create a case around so they could go back and like do some sort of prosecution to be like, yeah, what are you talking about? You can't interfere in our affairs. We're a democratic organization. We have democratic governance. We actually investigate our own war crimes, specifically the ones that, you know, we figured out by surveilling and tapping the phones of the former ICC prosecutor, Fatou Bensouda, to see exactly which war crimes she was actually focusing on so that we could actually use complementarity to our advantage as a deflection, as a shield. It's insane, okay? The well is endless for depravity. Okay, dude, you're insane. Anyway, so just to help you understand a little bit about, like, you know, what is going on here. And there's a lot to talk about, but here, let's see what the ICC warrants mean.
There hasn't been any reaction officially from Netanyahu's office. I have texted officials close to the Israeli Prime Minister, but there's been no reaction yet. But we know, or we can predict, how they will react, given that when the chief prosecutor for the International Criminal Court, Karim Khan, who's a British lawyer, first sought these arrest warrants, it was met with a lot of anger and, frankly, disbelief by senior members of the Israeli government and a lot of people in Israel as well. They were disgusted at the idea that the ICC could be investigating Israeli leaders for war crimes when it was Hamas that carried out the October the 7th attacks. But the initial request by the chief prosecutor of the ICC included, as well as Netanyahu and the former now defense minister Yoav Gallant, it included the two Hamas leaders, Yahya Sinwar and Ismail Haniyeh. Well, they're now both dead, killed by Israel, so they're no longer on the charge sheet, as it were. And Mohammed Daif, another senior member, commander of Hamas, an arrest warrant has been issued for him as well. Israel says that they had killed him, but Hamas have not confirmed it officially. So effectively 3 arrest warrants have been issued by the International Criminal Court, but the 2 most significant, for obvious reasons, are those against Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant. The court, in their statement that they released, said that they have reasonable grounds to believe that those 2 men have been carrying out the war crime of starvation as a method of war warfare and the crimes against humanity of murder, persecution, and other inhumane acts. Now, it's been quite a lengthy process to get to this point ever since the arrest warrants were first sought about 6 or 7 months ago. There have been a lot of legal challenges, in particular by the Israelis against firstly, the authority of the court to do this. The Israelis argue that the court doesn't have an authority to pursue claims related to Israel because they're not a signatory, or the Palestinian. But the court rejected that and said they do have jurisdiction over Palestinian territory. There's also been question marks over one of the judges on the panel and their suitability to take one of these decisions and whether or not they were suitably independent. But the court has rejected all that and has now issued these arrest warrants. So what does it mean? Well, practically, it would mean that Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant couldn't travel to any state that is a signatory of the International Criminal Court. There's around 120 countries around the world, including many European countries, including the United Kingdom. And by rights, at least according to what those countries have signed up to, were Netanyahu to travel to any of those countries, he should be arrested by the police forces of those countries. And it'll be very interesting to see actually whether or what Keir Starmer and the Labour Party government's reaction is to this. Starmer, human rights lawyer by trade, shortly after Labour came to power, they actually removed an objection or a question mark that the
What Gideon Levy take that scares me? Netanyahu, the ultimate victim in the eyes of many Israelis. Oh no, their fascist leader that they only have increased in popularity as he's killed more babies is going to become more popular now in Israel. Yeah, I know. I don't give a okay? Now he can't go to Europe. Suck my dick. Now he can't go to Canada. You, Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay? The only place he could travel to is going to be, the United States of America. I guess they're sweating now. Gideon Levy told Al Jazeera, he said the warrants also have a much broader meaning for Israel, the Israeli army, for individual soldiers and officers, because they can snowball to include more people. However, Israel today is united in condemning the ICC for almost wall to wall, Levy said. Very few in Israel are asking, how do we get to this point? He said, many Israelis don't see anything wrong with the behavior of Israel in Gaza. Levy believes Netanyahu's popularity in Israel may increase in the coming days because he is now the ultimate victim. Now it's him against the whole world, and Israelis feel that he represents all of them. I mean, they did. His popularity only increased when he did shit like this, okay? So yeah, we didn't arrive at this conclusion yesterday. This didn't happen overnight. It was a long path with fascist acceleration happening in Israel day in and day out, especially amplified through Benjamin Netanyahu's reign over Israel in the past 30 years. If he actually tried to travel to those places, what are the odds he would actually be arrested? I would love to see it. No, I don't think it's zero. I think he's just not going to go to those places. I don't think it's zero. Like, people will point to Vladimir Putin, who also is a war criminal and has a warrant out for his arrest, traveling to Mongolia. I don't think that's the same. I don't think that Vladimir Putin going to Mongolia, which is supposed to abide by the Rome Statute and not arresting Vladimir Putin, is the same as Benjamin Netanyahu going to the heart of Europe. Mongolia is a little bit different than, I believe, South Africa, for example. Didn't Vladimir Putin not go to South Africa? Yeah. It's serious, man. It's not like that. It's not, I mean, we talk about how feckless of an institution the UN is, right? And in many respects, it's true because the Security Council trumps all, and the Security Council is dominated by a singular veto power in the hands of the United States of America. Okay? Having said that, however, this is an escalation. This is one step above that. Okay? The ICC is a pretty, I mean, it's a pretty solid, well-respected institution. And while its influence can be limited in a place like Mongolia, which is very limited in what it can and can't do, right? And the ICC itself doesn't have they're not gonna use like Interpol or whatever, but they do have a network of laws in place for exactly this situation happening. Now, the interesting part about this is that it is in American law to invade The Hague if Israel or any Israeli or any American ally ever gets prosecuted in the ICC. This is real. This is a very real law in the American books. Okay? Something that I've talked about quite a bit. not a rule that you would have if you're a good guy. Historically, good guys don't have. We will blow up the International Criminal Court in their books as a rule. Okay? The Hague Invasion Act is an act that allows the president to order U.S. military action such as the invasion of the Netherlands, where the Hague is located, to protect American officials and military personnel from prosecution and rescue them from custody. Yeah, but that in and of itself would make America the enemy of the entire Western world, okay? I don't think they have motion like that. Remember, something that I've told you about soft power over and over again. Soft power and hard power work hand in hand, okay? Soft power and hard power work together. All of a sudden, 800 military bases can look like 800 different invasions, okay? 800 military bases will look like a collaborative security partnership as long as America is seemingly abiding by the rules or not going so far, not just getting too far out of pocket, okay? Yeah, you can invade Libya, for example. You bomb Libya with some NATO troops or whatever the fuck. You can go into Iraq. You can go into Afghanistan. But if you go into the Netherlands, well, that's an entirely different situation. You can have that law in your books, okay, as a threat, okay? You can have that law in your books as a threat. Following through on that threat is entirely different. Now, do I think Donald Trump would do such a thing? Maybe. Who knows? He's a fucking psycho. Okay? He's an absolute psychopath. Perhaps a reasonable person who is maybe not demented, who cares about the future of this country and every other country, and maybe even maintaining a shred of decency for the United States of America, what remains, would try to pack this entire situation up before it gets completely out of hand. And then Donald Trump is the one with the reins of power. But they're not going to do that because Joe Biden is a ultra-nationalist for Israel.
The previous British government had submitted to the International Criminal Court. But the United States, obviously Israel's closest ally, they are not a signatory of the ICC. So in theory, Netanyahu would still be able to travel to the United States, a country that he has such a long affiliation with, a country where he grew up in, went to school in his early years. And we've already seen from the incoming Republican administration in the United States threats to sanction the ICC were they to proceed with this. So I think Netanyahu will have support on the other side of the Atlantic. Also, these ICC arrest warrants don't always get carried out. We saw President Putin, who had an arrest warrant issued for him after the invasion of Ukraine, traveled to Mongolia a couple of months ago, and nothing was done about that. He wasn't arrested when he landed in Mongolia. But in terms of the reputation of Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, in terms of their legacy, they are now wanted suspects, wanted to be put on trial for war crimes. And it is a label that will never leave them. And object to it as strongly as no doubt they will do. Nonetheless, a body of such, the International Criminal Court has...
I have an idea. Okay? I have an idea. What if you didn't do any of the war crimes and you just stopped and then you volunteered yourself to be put in, some sort of confinement so that the prosecution could be conducted, and then went to jail for the rest of your life if that's, what they choose to do? I'm just saying, if you're innocent, go defend yourself. Go defend yourself in court, right? I mean, that's what you would do, right, in this situation?
Decided, after many months of weighing up the evidence, that there is sufficient evidence to request arrest warrants against Israel's Prime Minister and former Defense Minister.
And Ali, you say there's been no official reaction.
This part is a little bit more tricky, but yes, Netanyahu would not be able to fly over Europe because they could potentially send jets, like fighter jets, to forcibly land his plane. Or if he has any sort of emergency landing due to mechanical or health reasons, he would, plausibly have to go to jail. Now, I don't think that they would actually fucking force, I don't think they would send fighter jets to force his plane to land. Like, I think that's a bit much. There are direct flights from Tel Aviv to JFK. No, I'm just saying the opportunities are endless. I'm not saying it's going to happen. You should check the New York Times homepage right now. Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're not covering this story. It's probably not that important. It's probably like around, third, fourth, fifth most important. Matt Gaetz withdraws his attorney general pick. It was a big story, to be fair. Inside the lobbying career of Trump's new chief of staff. Okay, that's weird. Pete Hegseth. Clean energy. Putin threat to West. Oh, it's not even under the fold. It's like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. It's like multiple scrolls past. Wow, it's not even in the top 3 or 4 news stories in the country. It's the 5th. Netanyahu's arrest sought by International Criminal Court. That's interesting. Arrest sought by court.
To it yet, but as you point out, when the arrest warrants were requested by Karim Khan back in May, there was a lot of pushback from the Israelis because, as we've seen, there were those 2 appeals that were put in place that the ICC rejected to date. Now, it's a de facto travel ban for those countries that are part of the Rome Statute, part of the ICC. But I think the first requirement is on national courts to bring in that arrest warrant as well. And of course, Benjamin Netanyahu has his issue.
Honestly, surprised your hit piece didn't end up higher. I know yours was in a different section. New York Times is not going to do a hit piece on me. They're not that depraved. Okay, that's like leave that shit to the Fox News and the New York Post of the world. Okay, that's a little bit different. New York Times is not going to do a hit piece on me yet. Let's just say, boom, easy money, baby. You come in here, you say some dumb shit, clap, get clap. One silly question I have for all the people that have just not been paying attention to anything that's going on in the world. I wonder if they will at any moment go, hey, maybe I should stop watching these drama farmers who are either pro-Israel or noticeably absent from the conversation until there's an opportunity to on Hasan for being a critic of Israel. Probably not. What? Please ban me as well. I'll stop watching you then. No. You will not get banned until you say some bigoted
issues with the Israeli courts at the moment. There are still those outstanding cases against him, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that an Israeli court would try and follow through on this arrest warrant from the ICC. But does this in any way build on some of the domestic pressure that Benjamin Netanyahu may be facing in that regard?
You're right. I don't see a situation where the Israeli High Court, for example, will demand the arrest domestically of either Netanyahu or Gallant. But you never know what might happen in the future. And that will always play on Netanyahu. You never know what a court might do in 5 years hence, 10 years hence, for example. I think there are cases, I think there is precedent for courts in...
I told you that AOC was absolutely the enemy and should be shunned from the left. Got a weak ban for it when she voted to make it illegal to not Sam Ham Israel Chai. I am vindicated. She voted to put you in jail, bro. What will it take for you to condemn her? Well, she didn't. She did not do that. She voted for I hate anti-Semitism messaging bill that was not even a bill. It was a resolution to urge to adopt the IHRA definition and codify it. She has in the past struck down and voted against IHRA codification bills, and she will continue to do so. I still do think that AOC's, even on a messaging bill like that, the fact that AOC voted yay on it is not, it's just ridiculous, I think. Having said that, however, if you think that she would vote to put forth a bill that would put me in jail, that vote would also put her in jail as well, which is why I thought it was very silly. We talked about this yesterday. Like, my criticisms of AOC are, I think fairly reasonable. Wait, she voted for the nonprofit killer? No, that's the point. She voted against the nonprofit killer. She voted against the former IHRA definition bill. Of course, she's not going to vote for the IHRA definition bill. This is a messaging bill. It's like I don't like anti-Semitism is the way that they present it. And then there's urging to put the IHRA definition sneaking into that anti-Semitism bill. I still maintain the position that she should not have voted yay on it. Okay, she should not have. But this is not what do you call it? This is not like a binding bill that will implement the IHRA definition. The resolution that urges for there to be a binding bill that actually adopts the IHRA definition. And I don't think she would vote for that. And she has literally voted against it in the past, as we looked at yesterday. This is not a defense of AOC. I am still against her voting on this bill. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. Stop defending. Shut the up, dude. My job is to tell you the truth. I do not appreciate, nor do I think she did the right thing. Why the are we talking about AOC as a moment of happiness? Shut the up. My job is to explain to you things so you don't get geared because you saw a bunch of wonderful people that I also like, okay, on Twitter immediately go, AOC wants to throw you in jail for criticizing Israel, okay? I don't want you to be airheaded leftists that get duped by memes. So I'm going to tell you what the truth is, okay? This is not a defense of AOC. I don't think she did the right thing there at all. I think she did the wrong thing by voting yay on this message bill. Anyway, let's continue.
Countries to arrest their own citizens, their own past leaders, and deport them to The Hague. But it's not something I can see happening in the current state in Israel. I think this will make negotiations.
If the bill wasn't binding, then why give a fuck? No, I do give a fuck. I think it's stupid to vote in favor of bills like that. And part of the reason why I think it's stupid is because it's like the anti-socialist messaging bill that the Democrats voted on as well. And I never forgot Ro Khanna voting against it. Voting for it. Democrats are firmly committed to fighting socialism is like a dumbass messaging bill that you don't have to vote yes on. Anyway, didn't Ethan say this guy was the voice of reason in the cabinet? Yes, he doesn't know anything. Like, please. And he also apologized for saying that. Okay? Like, please, guys, come on. Yes, Ethan, regardless of the way he presents himself or has presented himself from in this entire process, is like, I think a lot of you think that he's just like actively, knowledgeable on this stuff and is just like firmly committed to a position. Like, I think he's just, again, this is also not a defense of Ethan, who has actively tried to get me deplatformed for being pro-Palestinian, okay? Consistently claiming that I am creating an environment for anti-Semitism. One of the most vicious smears coming from a person that I knew personally. Just remember that, okay? Like, he doesn't know anything. Stop. He didn't apologize, Hasan. He doubled down. I thought he did. I thought he was like, yeah, we didn't know. I thought he said his wife didn't know enough, which, you can be like, what the fuck do you mean? It's been a year. But I thought it was more so, I just don't want to even bring up Ethan, man. It's a distraction. It's so dumb. Shut up. Oh, God. It's an even bigger distraction and stupid thing to talk about in this moment. Please, let's move on and let's eyes on the prize. Lock in.
Negotiations to bring about a ceasefire in Gaza potentially harder. I mean, they're difficult enough as it is at the moment. In terms of the timing of this, I think there probably are two factors. One is what is going on in northern Gaza at the moment, because Israel is being accused of carrying out anything between ethnic cleansing and genocide. I should point out the accusation of genocide is an accusation. It is not been formally labelled as such. That is a matter for another court, the ICJ, the International Court of Justice. But those are the accusations that are being labelled at the Israeli government and the Israeli military for their actions in northern Gaza right now. And secondly, I do think that that incoming Trump administration might have played a factor into the timing for the release of this announcement as well. So it will probably complicate matters when it comes to trying to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. We will have to see how Benjamin Netanyahu reacts. I can't think that he will leave it long before releasing some form of statement, or something will come out from the Prime Minister's office. But in the past, he has been very defiant about his own actions. And a lot of Israelis, I would say, were appalled at the idea, even if they don't like or support Benjamin Netanyahu, they were appalled at the idea that Israel's leaders could be on the same.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that's how you know we're not with it, okay? Imagine the celebrations in this community if the ICC put forth an arrest warrant application for Joseph Robinette Brandon. I would, which by the way would be perfectly valid. Just so you understand. They would never do that because that's like a bridge too far, obviously. But like, that's the difference. That's the difference between people who are with it, okay, and people who are phony. Yair Lapid, you're phony, okay? Stop hitting the weights, bitch. I get it. You got a great hairline for your goddamn age. What happened to being a part of the Benjamin Netanyahu coalition? Huh? You bitch. You centrist bitch. Imagine the tears of joy that we would cry if George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, fuck it, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden would be brought forth in front of the ICC, Tony Blair. Oh, that's the difference. These guys, they just don't want it. They're not real with it. They're not about it. They're not about this lifestyle. They just aesthetically are like, oh yeah, we hate Benjamin Netanyahu. Hillary Clinton, oh my God, for the crimes in Libya. Oh my God. That's why I was excited for Donald Trump when he said, lock her up. I thought to myself, one can only hope. Okay, Hillary Clinton going to jail for some other dumb shit. But in my mind, in my headcanon, it would be for her crimes in Haiti and her crimes in Libya. Oh, throw Bill in there too. God damn.
Charge sheet as
Look, dude, brother, I guarantee you the AOC would have you arrested for a committee appointment. She literally said Kamala was tirelessly working. Yes, yes, dude. You're right. AOC is the biggest enemy of the left. You got it. It's certainly not the hyperfixation of every permanently online left is like criticizing AOC for silly shit she says like this, okay, or cozying up and criticizing her bad political instincts for cozying up to the Biden administration is one thing. Saying that she is like the enemy of the left or like she is the biggest enemy in the entirety of Congress when she outflanked Bernie Sanders on calling Israel's actions in Gaza a genocide far before anyone else in Congress did, with the exception of Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. Please stop. Like, stop. I don't care, man. I don't. You're never gonna penetrate the attitude that I have. Okay, I don't understand. Leftists get in their own damn way every time, dude. They get in their own damn way all the time. Like, this is supposed to be a moment of celebration, okay? And what are people doing online? They're like, AOC. I don't care. Yes, she makes bad decisions, okay? Yes, and this voting for this message bill was one of them. But if you think this is the same shit people say about you, chat, understand this? Yeah, I just, it's just noise, please.
Hamas's leaders.
Okay, Ali, for now, in Israel, thank you very much for that update.
All right, we're gonna do the channel 4. We're gonna do the channel 4 video now on the Israeli war crimes and what Benjamin Netanyahu is being prosecuted for. Oh my God, we have a lot to talk about. Holy moly! Before we do that though, accountability is dead, brother. I don't give a shit about AOC's messaging bill. Talk to me when she actually votes for adopting the IHRA definition, okay? That is a red line. I think the messaging bill is wrong. I think the messaging bill, voting yay on it, is wrong and bad. And it shows bad political instincts from where I'm standing, okay? But you got congresspersons literally being like, we have to assassinate the members of the International Criminal Court, and you guys are yelling about AOC. Shut the up. There's a level of accountability that is understandable, and then there's not rating on a curve because you don't understand how insane American Congress across the board is.
Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense minister, Yoav Gallant, Canadian law enforcement is obligated to arrest them should they come to Canada. Will you allow that to happen, or will you step in to prevent an arrest?
First of all, as Canada has always said, it's really important that everyone abide by international law. This is something we've been calling on from the beginning of the conflict.
Would call this level of accountability unfair? No, I'm not saying it's unfair to criticize AOC for voting on the messaging bill at all. Okay, I'm saying that eyes on the prize. There are more significant things that at play. Okay, it's just unproductive. Time and place, dude.
We are one of the founding members of the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice. We stand up for international law, and we will abide by all the regulations and rulings of the international courts. This is just who we are as Canadians. At the same time, we need to keep working to solve this terrible situation. We need to see aid flowing in to people who are facing famine and disease. We need to see all the hostages released. We need to see Hamas lay down its arms. We condemn Hamas for its continued actions. We need to see a ceasefire that protects civilians. We need to get back on track towards a two-state solution with a peaceful Israel living alongside a peaceful Palestinian state. These are the things that Canada has been working on. And at the same time, we have to recognize as Canadians that it's been very, very difficult for members of different communities in this country. We have to remember who we are, be there for each other, understand that people are angry and grieving, but remember that we are all pushing for peace and stability as hard as we can.
Bro said, don't you dare come into my backyard. You will not be getting maple syrup, baby. Wasn't there already a warrant issued for Bibi? No. So there was an application. There was an application for the arrest warrants, but they did not. There's a difference between an application for the arrest warrants and those applications actually being judged by 3 different judges and then being found to be reasonable. The applications are now official, which means that, you know, we're one step closer to Benjamin Netanyahu being considered a war criminal, given that a lot of these war criminals, especially if they are directly in the realm of influence of the United States of America, are never really going to get prosecuted. That's it. He's just a war criminal, just like Putin is. Putin's never going to get prosecuted either until, you know, I guess somehow magically Russia falls or something, you know? We're going to talk about the White House's response as well in a second. Actually, you know what? Let's finish this. Let's finish the Channel 4 thing, and then we'll talk about
starving children, dangerously malnourished, amputations performed without anesthetic.
Yeah, remember, it's important to also remember why Benjamin Netanyahu is considered a war criminal now, and so is Yoav Gallant, and so is many members of the Israeli occupying forces, and many people who have offered them credence, offered them protection, offered them guidance. This includes American leadership as well. Just recognize that, like, this is the reason. It's not for no reason, and it's certainly not because of anti-Semitism, okay?
Families killed. Israel's war in Gaza has been filled with horrors that are hard to fathom. Israel accused of deliberately blocking aid, even as a humanitarian crisis deepens. Today, it led to arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, being issued by the International Criminal Court for their alleged role in the suffering. Judges ruled there are reasonable grounds to believe they are responsible for the war crime of starvation, as well as the crimes against humanity of murder, persecution and other inhumane acts, and of intentionally directing an attack against the civilian population. The court also issued a warrant for Hamas's military commander, Mohammed Deif, though he's believed to be dead, accusing him of crimes against humanity as part of a widespread and systematic attack against the civilian population of Israel on October the 7th.
Another thing that we were talking about, by the way, I like that Vorlo just said, remember the standing ovation in Congress when he was speaking? Yeah, I do remember. And also so does the world, and so does Channel 4. Because they're literally presenting it. Remember these demons, okay? Remember what these demons did. Never let them forget it, okay? I certainly have not forgotten, okay? But also, something that you guys, oh, damn, bro, your Discord channel is a cesspool. What? My Discord channel? Self-righteous assholes chat in the chat thinking they're better. Shut the fuck up. You're literally doing harm. What? What is happening, bro? It's your fault for going in there. Okay, let's continue.
It's the arrest warrants for Israeli politicians that are unprecedented. Netanyahu becoming the first leader of a Western-style democracy to be accused by the court. Here he was in Washington just a few months ago, given a rapturous welcome by Congress.
America and Israel must stand together.
Look at that. Look at these animals, dude. Oh, gross. Barbaric monsters. But hey, they wear suits, so, you know, they're elite. They're above it all. Demons, all of them. Yeah, this is clapping for Adolf, dude. Straight up. Clapping for Adolf. Look at that ogre. He put a suit on for once. Disgusting. Pretty sure isn't it affiliated with the Discord? Hasan isn't affiliated with the Discord channel. If there was any sort of real justice in this world, every single person that gave a standing ovation and gave real cover to Benjamin Netanyahu, the war criminal, would also stand trial. Okay, of course that will not happen, but you know, that doesn't change the reality. It doesn't change the horror. It doesn't change the reality. It doesn't change their involvement.
Today, he dismissed the charges as absurd, biased and anti-Semitic. But public statements made by the men themselves form part of the evidence against them. At the start of the war, Gallant said food, water and fuel would all be blocked from entering Gaza.
Has the ADL called the ICC anti-Semitic yet? The Apartheid Defense League? I'm certain that they have already. This is their opportunity to shine, you know?
In the face of international pressure, aid has been allowed in, but nowhere near enough. Today in Gaza, displaced Palestinians welcomed the charges, though many fear they'll have little impact.
We hope that the decision issued today will serve the Palestinians and serve us here in particular in Gaza, and that it will not be like other decisions that have passed unnoticed.
Will Netanyahu and Gallant ever face the judges at the ICC? Everyone knows it's unlikely. The court has no police force to arrest anyone, but trips like this to London before the war will now be much more difficult. Many of Israel's allies are members of the ICC and are now obliged to detain the men if they enter the country, though America is not and has rejected the warrants. In Israel, where focus remains on the hostages still held captive by Hamas, even staunch critics of Netanyahu spoke out in his defense.
Oh, staunch critics of Netanyahu. Get the out of here. Then you're not. Okay? You're not a staunch critic of Netanyahu. You're just not. If you're defending him in this moment, then you're not a critic of Netanyahu at all. You love him. You just, much like our liberals, want to have the moral high ground. He does all of your wishes, but then you still get the chirp. Speaking of the ADL, 49 likes on this. Damn. The International Criminal Court's arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant is a shameful and wholly political action on the part of the court. The ICC's rationale is rooted in the unsubstantiated and specious claims which run counter to the realities of the ground in Gaza and send a disturbing message equating Israel's war of self-defense with Hamas's terrorism. The court has ignored its own principles and practices in service of a political ruling. The court's moral lapse only serves to further embolden extremists and incite violence against Jews in Israel. We urge global leaders to unequivocally reject the ICC's wrong and dangerous decision. Remember when I said they got no motion? This is what I mean. All they can do is chirp, okay? All they can do is chirp about this kind of shit and cry about it. The only motion they got, the only motion they got is when they're complaining that, you know, some content creators said Sabra hummus is the grossest anti-Semitic crime of all. Press Sec just spoke. We'll do it again. Hold on. We'll get to it. Don't worry. Yeah.
It means that we as Jews and the state of Israel has no right to defend themselves against all these attacks and evil things that are being done against us, and they are defending us.
Would we provide the same cover for other American allies, or is this an only Israel thing? No, we would provide the same cover for America's allies. I mean, depending on if they're still within the framework of allegiance. Like, we've cast aside former fascists in the past, using them and then just like throwing them into the wind. But if some shit like this happened to Saudi Arabia, I think America would defend them. Not Saudi Arabia. No, I think America would defend Saudi Arabia. I think America would defend NATO nation Turkey as well. We did do that. We offered political cover and weapons to Saudi Arabia to do a Leave America Stupid Iranina terrorist. All right, well, for that chatter, we got to do it again.
على عهدي على ديني على أرض تلاقيني أنا لأهلي أنا فديهم أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 أنا دمي فلسطيني على أرض تلاقيني أنا لأهلي أنا فديهم والله أنا دمي فلسطيني 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 أنا دمي فلسطيني
Anyway, is this on Apple Music, dead ass? I think it's on a bunch of different platforms on YouTube, but the distributors themselves pulled it off of Spotify, and Israel did do a pressure campaign. Not only did Israel steal the song and recreate it to make it pro-Israel because it's an absolute banger, but they also actively tried to get the song removed from all of the platforms, claiming it's anti-Semitic. It's not, by the way. It's not, okay? It was taken off of Spotify. I think Spotify revealed that it was actually the distributor that took it off, but then I believe it's back on. It's Mohammed Assaf is the name of the artist, and the song is called Dammi Falastini. Yeah, that's the song, yeah.
Against that.
Even if support around Netanyahu is rallying now, some say the arrest warrant will damage him politically.
I think there will be a shift from defending what they say, the Prime Minister, what he represents as the most powerful position in Israel politics, into a little bit of soul-searching about how Israel got to this point.
Israel's assault on Gaza is continuing. In the north, tens of thousands of Palestinians have been forced to flee amidst fears they'll never be allowed to return. Overnight, dozens were killed in strikes across Gaza.
Children again, by the way. Israel, by the way, while we were having this conversation, Israel has been murdering children at a rapid clip in North Gaza. Just so you understand, like, the situation is still dire and only getting worse, especially in North Gaza. Israel has already revealed its ambitions of permanently occupying it through military force, and they're building roads to the former Israeli settlements that existed in the Gaza Strip already. So that's the other side of the story, obviously, that, like, while this is a little bit, this is a moment of happiness, okay? Just remind yourselves, what the wrongdoings of Israel look like, okay, and how severe they are.
Here, the funerals of 3 children in the southern city of Khan Yunis. What impact, if any, will today's arrest warrant?
They're still killing. They're still killing people in southern Gaza as well.
Have on international efforts to finally reach a ceasefire.
Well, earlier I spoke to Jeffrey Robertson, Casey, a leading human rights lawyer who has been a UN war crimes judge. I began by asking how historic these arrest warrants are.
Well, we've had Kenyan leaders issued with warrants.
Remember Karim Khan famously saying that, he had a conversation with an American congressperson who directly told him the ICC's jurisdiction is not for Western leaders. The ICC is there so you arrest African warlords and thugs like Putin. It's not. You're not supposed to get our guys. It was Lindsey Graham most likely.
Turned up. They were given bail, and they fought the case through lawyers. It never got to trial. But so there are precedents, but never perhaps a leader that is so blindly backed by America, which is not a member of the court, but will bring pressure upon it. And we just hope that the judges are independent enough, and they've shown independence by issuing this arrest warrant today.
What the Israelis will say, I'm sure, and they have an answer for themselves, obviously, is that the civilians who died in the Gaza Strip, and they would obviously dispute the numbers of civilians that have been killed, died either because they were used as human shields by Hamas or because they were, they got in the way. It was an unfortunate so-called collateral damage of the conflict, that dreadful term. But that they did not go out of their way to target these individuals.
Well, the prosecutor will say damage is not collateral if it's directly aimed. And so that's the answer to that.
What's the procedure now for the ICC?
The procedure is that the case goes to the next stage, and Mr. Khan, or whoever it is, will seek an indictment. Mr. Netanyahu can, I think he'd be allowed to send lawyers to the court to oppose that, although it's not necessary. The important thing to remember is that the ICC does not have the power to try him in absentia, no matter how strong the evidence.
So you need to actually arrest him in order to put him on trial, put him in the dock.
They need to put him in the dock.
Now, is that going to be likely?
First of all, Netanyahu himself may stay away. The downside for that is there are 124 countries signed up to the ICC, so he won't be able to travel very far.
But enforcement is voluntary, isn't it? So a country could choose not to arrest Prime Minister Netanyahu.
They'd have to leave the ICC. South Africa tried this with the head of Sudan, who was indicted, and the court ruled that it couldn't. So this is one of its obligations.
So what's the sanction? The sanction is to expel that country from the ICC?
Yes, which most countries don't want to be expelled. They will.
Is America leaving the ICC? America's never been a part of it.
Will do what was done with Putin in that other conference last year.
Why did it take the ICC this long, brother or sister or MB? The former ICC prosecutor that actually launched a case against Israel for apartheid and other war crimes literally was endlessly harassed by Mossad and actively surveilled. Her phones were tapped. And Benjamin Netanyahu went to the United States of America and got Donald Trump to issue direct sanctions on her. Okay? And in the process of Karim Khan opening up that, or continuing along with the investigation of the former ICC prosecutor Bensouda, okay, they literally never stopped threatening him. Okay, they have been threatening him nonstop. They probably threatened the judges too. So, like I said, the well of depravity is deep. Okay, it's not. You can't get away with, criticizing Israel, especially from an international organ of justice. Okay, you can't do that. That's not allowed. Not allowed. And for the record, when you go, I don't really understand. Why did it take so long? I mean, dude, look at what the American leadership is saying currently about the warrants, that they sent multiple letters with the congressional letterhead saying, if the ICC takes this decision and actually files the warrants for arresting Benjamin Netanyahu, we will literally take military action. They have said that they're going to take military action. It is in the law. It is in the law. It is in the books. We have a law called the Hague Invasion Act, known colloquially as the Hague Invasion Act. Okay? Since, I believe, 2002, if I'm not mistaken, where if any American ally or any American service member is ever prosecuted by the ICC, America will invade the Hague. They will invade the Netherlands. Okay? It is a overt declaration of war. Now, you might be wondering, like, well, 2002, that's a weird time to write a law like that and put it in the books. I wonder why. There is a law that we passed in Congress that dictates that if an American citizen, if any kind of American service member, active duty, or vice versa, is ever brought up to the International Criminal Court, if they are extradited to the International Criminal Court, the U.S. Hague Invasion Act will kick in. You heard that right. We will invade the Hague. This is another one of there's a couple things that I talk about that like basically break people's brains. This is another one of them. When I talk about 32 states making it illegal to criticize Israel and still retain a job, everyone's like, what? That seems insane. Another one is obviously the massive amounts of money that the Defense Department cannot account for in the trillions. Okay? That also always breaks people's brains. And this is the last one. Whenever people say, America bad us on, exactly how? I tell them, we have a law in the books after our war on terror started, post 9/11, that because we knew we were going to do an unimaginable metric ton of fucking war crimes. If the ICC ever decided to, you know, do its job and play its role and actively try and prosecute any war criminals that are of American descent or working at the behest of the United States of America, that we will invade them. Okay? That's not good guy shit. That's bad guy shit. That is not good guy shit. Okay? I'm sorry. U.S. President George Bush today signed into law the American Service Members Protection Act. That's what that's what it was called, which is intended to intimidate countries that ratify the treaty for the International Criminal Court. The new law authorizes the use of military force to liberate any American or citizen of a U.S. allied country being held by the court, which is located in The Hague. This provision, dubbed the Hague Invasion Clause, has a strong reaction from U.S. allies around the world, particularly in the Netherlands. This is real. This is still in action. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you can't really prosecute American war crimes in the International Criminal Court. Oh, this was pretty funny too. Of course, this pairs along nicely with this. Pentagon blocks sharing evidence of possible Russian war crimes with the Hague Court. I wonder why. Perhaps because it would set a bad precedent. And then lastly, International Criminal Court officials sanctioned by the United States. This was back in the 2nd of September 2020, the U.S. court has imposed sanctions on senior officials in the International Criminal Court, including Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo accused the court of illegitimate attempts to subject Americans to his jurisdiction. How wonderful that this related. Iraq amputee, I can hug my son with my feet. Related to this, okay? All of this is somehow related to one another, I suspect. I haven't even read the article, but, you know, wonder how that happened to that guy. But yeah, the U.S. has criticized the court since its foundation and is one of a dozen states which have not signed up. Balkis Jarrah, a senior counsel of the non-governmental organization Human Rights Watch, condemned the sanctions as a shameful new low for U.S. commitments to justice for victims of the worst crimes. Once again, you know, the Geneva Suggestion, not the Geneva Convention, or any matter of international law is merely just a weapon against America's foreign adversaries. That's it. That is it. There are no... Damn, bro. People say, Hasan Abi, you've changed. It's like, I haven't changed. You did, bitch. There's literally, go back in time and listen to me talk about any number of different things that America has done to serve its own capital interests, okay? I have always been a long-standing critic of American imperialism, Western chauvinism, American exceptionalism. That's why it's so funny when like, bro, you've changed, dude. No, I have not changed, okay? You watched a couple drama pervert videos, and because you were hopped up on American exceptionalist fumes to begin with, and that's an understandable starting position for you, and you refused to interrogate how you arrived at these positions, and possibly out of fear that, you know, a Chinese century of dominance would be terrifying, okay, decided to lean into American exceptionalism and Western chauvinism and American imperialism being a force for good. That's it. That's it. Yes, there's ambulances at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know what's going on, but this has been a glorious day so far. I'm going to lose my goddamn mind if some other glorious shit are happening. Per pool, 2 ambulances and several vans that appear full of Secret Service have left Mar-a-Lago in the last few minutes. Yeah, the only thing that changed from back then is I'm no longer wearing Teddy Fresh shit. No rules for America. Only rules for who America has declared their enemies.
They simply warned him. It was in South Africa.
I don't think people understand. People who are excited at the prospect of like Donald Trump, you know, getting crippled by a heart attack or dying or some shit don't realize that that means is President J.D. Vance, which is horrific, okay? I mean, Trump is also horrific. President J.D. Vance will be equally horrific, if not worse, because that means now you have a competent fascist that is directly aligned. Like Peter Thiel owns the country now. Do you understand? It's basically President Peter Thiel. We are so cooked. Oh my God, we are so cooked.
South Africa warned him not to come, and he didn't. And Netanyahu would be given the same warning.
So his world
the
has
ICC.
shrunk considerably.
It has, and he would be seen as an international fugitive.
Finally, and very briefly, Jeffrey Robertson, how likely from your experience, and given who else has turned up in the dock when people said it was impossible, how likely do you think it is that he and the other people who've been issued with this warrant will end up on trial?
Well, everyone said Milosevic, indict him, he'll never turn up. And yet his people handed him over. I think it is not impossible if he fell from power.
So the most likely people to hand him over would be the Israelis themselves, rather than him getting arrested on the streets of London or Paris.
It would be an easy way of disposing of him, were he to fail at the next elections, sent off to defend himself. But that's not likely. The likelihood is there'll be enormous American pressure to protect him, and we'll just have to wait and hope to see this court showing its independence. It's not anti-Semitic. That's an outrageous lie by Israel. There's nothing anti-Semitic about it. We can see on our television the war crimes every night as residential areas are bombed and children dug out of the rubble.
Jeffrey Robertson, thank you very much indeed. Well, joining me now is the Israeli diplomat and journalist Alan Pinkas. He's also served as an advisor to two former prime ministers, Ehud Barak and Shimon Peres. Alan Pinkas, good to speak to you again. What do you make of this arrest warrant then against Mr. Netanyahu and the former defense minister, Yoav Gallant?
Well, good to be with you, Matt. It was predictable. It was anticipated. It was expected.
It was fantastic.
The chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, requested.
It was also fantastic. Incredible stuff.
The warrants from the court in May. So that's 6 months ago. And it took time, but here we are. So on the one hand, it did not come as a surprise. On the other hand, you see by Israel's vociferous reaction that this hit quite an exposed nerve. You know, you put into this blender of Israeli responses anti-Semitism and the Holocaust and an international conspiracy and a cabal and terrorism and Iran, and you blend and everyone drinks out of the same concoction, and everyone comes out with basically the same righteous indignation. On the other hand, I just listened very carefully to the very...
He didn't say kebab, he said cabal.
Interesting interview you conducted with Jeffrey Robertson. He makes very, very important points. Mr. Netanyahu cannot be tried in absentia. He knows that.
Yeah.
He will not test this. But then again, he, A, is a fugitive. B, as you said correctly, Matt, his world shrunk considerably.
Right. I mean, does Israel itself, and I know that Netanyahu has been incredibly unpopular, with lots of people for lots of other reasons, but the war itself has, as far as I can understand, been supported by the Israeli.
Yeah, it's funny that defenders of Israel or people who want to even talk about Israel in positive terms will so quickly just use the most classic anti-Semitic tropes, but against Israel's enemies. Yeah. Iran, the Iranian cabal taking over the world. The Iranian Illuminati are controlling the purse strings of society. Iran controls the media and all of the international organs of justice.
Public.
Iran owns all the banks.
Israel itself now feel as a pariah because its democratically elected leader has been issued with this arrest warrant.
Well, that's a complex question. Let me explain why. What's complex about it? On the one hand, people disapprove of Netanyahu. They see him as responsible and believe he should be held accountable for the calamity of October 7th. Yes, they were pro the war. No, they do not truly realize and understand what Israel did in Gaza. Some do and don't care. Some choose not to know, and some just don't know.
Right.
You have to understand the Israeli mindset, because there's a symbolic dimension to this and a practical dimension. The practical, I think, was covered way better than I can possibly do by Jeffrey Robertson in terms of the legality or the legal issues. But there's a symbolism here. here's an Israel that believes it's on the moral high ground, that believes it has the most moral military in the world, that believes it is defending itself.
Right.
That you have to understand, the military, the Israeli military, is not some professional army. It's everyone.
Okay.
It's a people's.
But do you?
So people feel bad.
Right. But do you personally agree with the government in Tel Aviv that has said this is an anti-Semitic act? This arrest warrant is anti-Semitic.
No, I do not.
I mean, that is clearly what they're trying to do here.
Well, they're doing two things, Matt. First of all, Mr. Netanyahu, who suffers from a long time Louis XIV syndrome, identifying the state with himself and himself with the state, turns this into everyone's problem. We are being attacked by anti-Semites. We are the victims of a global conspiracy centered in The Hague, blah blah, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
The second thing is that look,
it's a Mike from Pennsylvania, aka Central Committee, is right. This is a bad day for pieces of shit, okay? A real bad day. All the way from like those who are conducting genocide down to like Twitch streamers, okay? And maybe even kick streamers, as a matter of fact. It's crazy. It's crazy how tides turn so fast.
The prime minister of my country is accused of war crimes. There's no question in my mind that he will not stand up trial.
But just briefly, sorry to interrupt you because we've slightly run out of time, Alan. Just one final one, briefly.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible, as Jeffrey Robertson has suggested, that actually maybe the Israelis themselves might arrest him and hand him over to the ICC?
No.
Or is that never going to happen?
No, no, for a very practical reason. If the prime minister of your country is accused of war crimes, crimes against humanity, as is the defense minister, it inevitably entails that about 200 other brigadier generals, major generals, lieutenant generals, and even colonels will be accused of similar crimes.
Right.
No, I don't think that will happen.
Alan, we've run out of time. Alan Pincus, thank you very much.
One can only imagine.
Much indeed for joining us on such a complex issue.
Matt.
Thank you.
The anti-Semitic decision of the
bitch, you ugly ass bitch.
International Court in The Hague is a modern Dreyfus trial, and it will end the same way. 130 years ago, the French Jewish officer Alfred Dreyfus was falsely accused of treason by a biased French court. In response to these false accusations, the great French writer Émile Zola wrote his monumental essay, J'accuse. He accused the French court of anti-Semitic lies against an innocent officer who was later exonerated of all guilt. Now
it just sucks because, you can't go to France no more, bitch. You know? You can invoke Dreyfus, but you can't go to France anymore. No more French countryside vacations for you, bitch. Oh, pack watch. Oh, so good. It feels good.
International Court in The Hague, also headed by a French judge, is repeating this outrageous offense.
Yeah, if Dreyfus was exonerated, why doesn't he go to The Hague to get exonerated? Yeah, just take a trip. Take a trip to Paris. Land your plane on French soil. And then maybe take another trip to The Hague.
It is falsely accusing me, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and Israel's former Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, of deliberately targeting civilians.
Dude, if I'm Yoav Gallant, okay, well, one, I would, I would not be, because that would mean I'm a monstrous piece of shit. I would use this as an opportunity. You got fired. Maybe you take a trip. Maybe you take a trip to The Hague, okay? And then maybe, in order to get a lighter sentence, you say, listen, my bad about all the war crimes I did, all the children that I, murdered. I'll take 700 years in prison, but in return, as opposed to, 1,000 years in prison, and in return, I'll give you everything you want about Benjamin Netanyahu, okay? Just saying. Could be cool. Could be a cool thing. What is this? Yeah. Right-wing Cope, by the way. Yeah, he's busy talking about Hitler dead, potentially, but his opinion on Israel leaves much to be desired. Yeah, that right-wing Cope is has disappointed me. Let's just say over this past year. Like, yeah, I love shitting on right-wingers. It's my favorite pastime. But I've seen the way he operates. Crazy how much this quote of you popped off on Twitter. Oh yeah, I saw this. 105,000 likes. You want every single Palestinian to be executed ruthlessly on the streets so they can build another theme park on Gaza, you baying pig. 20 to 25 cars, 2 ambulances, and a helicopter hovering above, entering Mar-a-Lago a few minutes before the vans and ambulances were spotted leaving. Oh my God. Yeah, right-wing co-op is a bit of a lib. Netanyahu can still visit America, right? Yeah.
This when we do everything in our power to avoid civilian casualties.
Yeah, Right-Wing Watch has posted about me being pro-terror. Yeah. He's, I think, a Bonarelli orbiter. So, Right-Wing Watch is kind of cooked. Not everyone has a real moral compass guiding them, you know? Calm down, people. Per transition source. False alarm. Go about your business. Oh, bummer. Seems like it's a false alarm. We got a brief moment, a brief glimmer of hope. We've gotten enough fun stuff on the docket, you know?
We issue millions of text messages, phone calls, leaflets to the citizens of Gaza to get them out of harm's way, while the Hamas terrorists do everything in their power to keep them in harm's way, including shooting them, using them as human shields. The court in The Hague accuses us of a deliberate policy of starvation. This when we've supplied Gaza with 700,000 tons of food to feed the people of Gaza. That's 3,200 calories for every man, woman, and child in Gaza.
That's you're a lying piece of shit. Literally, no one believes this. Even the American government doesn't believe it. Right-wing cope, by the way. What is this? Absolutely insane. Hillel's the only Jewish gathering place on a ton of campuses, especially if there isn't a big local synagogue Jewish community. I've been to Hillel events, and they're super welcoming. Any national statements the org makes is not representative of campuses. Wait, what? This is not that bad of a take. Hillel campus chapters events are not politically Zionist. They hold Cedars community events and other cool shit. Most you could argue they're culturally Zionist. Yeah, this is not like that bad of a take, chat. What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, yes, Hillel, at least according to my Jewish Hasanabi heads, who I've both talked to at pro-Palestinian encampments and, in this community, will argue against this sort of thing, and that, like, Hillels on campus are definitely geared towards defending Israel. It's not the only purpose of it, but that's not the take I was thinking about. Anyway, please don't talk about Hillel. Wait, what? 90% of chatters in here are solely interested in cancellations and drama. It's getting old. I agree. I can't believe I'm agreeing with Hidegio offliner right now. Anyway, let's finish this.
And these supplies are routinely looted by Hamas terrorists who deprive their people of much needed food. Yet just in the last few weeks, Israel facilitated the vaccination of 97% of the people of Gaza against polio. This doesn't prevent the court of accusing us of genocide. What in God's name are they talking about in The Hague?
We give them polio vaccines and then we kill them. Like, this is a week out from aid trucks being allowed to enter. This is a week out from aid trucks being allowed to enter, only to then turn around and lighting the school on fire. Bro, is worse at lying than content creators? Yeah, I mean, yeah. They also have allowed anti-Hamas militant groups within like actual roving gangs. What is this? Philly D covered your Fox article during a stream on this morning. He simulcast on YouTube and Twitch, and it was crazy seeing the split in opinion of you based on the platform. Ethan has really radicalized a lot of people on YouTube against you. I think Philip DeFranco has a lot of lib fans because of the nature of his coverage. And it's normal that there are going to be people who read that and don't think about it beyond. Like, YouTube chat is always going to be gross anyway. But I think that it's more so just like, Philip DeFranco has a lot of libs in his community. Yeah, I think, I don't think it's Ethan. What is a lib to you? You throw this around often. A liberal is someone who is pro-capitalism, someone who at least like is conciliatory to the demands being made by people who are progressive, but only as long as it is inoffensive, and will regularly trade away rights for marginalized people at the behest of maintaining a veneer of civility oftentimes a person who doesn't have like real ideological boundaries, like real interest in protecting. I think that for many people, the moment that they consider what like a party that they're defending to be unconscionable, and the moment that they call out their own party, they move beyond liberalism. Doors open. There are many more liberals out there than there are leftists, but I think that inside of the heart of a liberal, there is either a dormant fascist, and that's not the majority at all, or a dormant leftist. A liberal is a leftist that has not been awakened yet in many circumstances. Some people hold on to liberalism as this valid ideology. They trick themselves into believing that it has like some sort of intellectual or some sort of like moral compass, but in many instances, it's just simply defending hegemony. Depending on how much you would like to defend the current systems of oppression in the interest of maintaining civility and maintaining order, liberals can find themselves in the throes of fascist sentiment. I think Israel is a great example, right? Israel is a great example of this equation. If you see man-made horrors beyond human comprehension every single day and you look away from it and you say to yourself, there's a good reason for this happening. And that is because Hamas did October 7 and they have an ancient anti-Semitic gene in their hearts. And that, you know, unfortunately, some Palestinians are dying as a consequence of that, but that's just Hamas's fault. Then you might be a liberal who is a dormant fascist. If you see homeless people and you think to yourself, oh, these criminals, they must be thrown into prison immediately because they're grossing me out, rather than look at them and say, wow, these are victims of circumstance and they must get the help necessary. It is unconscionable that the wealthiest nation on earth has 600,000 plus homeless people sleeping outside every night. We must fix this broken system. Then you're not a liberal, you're a progressive.
The truth is simple. No war is more just than the war that Israel has been waging in Gaza after Hamas attacked us unprovoked, launching the worst massacre against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. The decision to issue an arrest warrant against me, the democratically elected Prime Minister of the State of Israel, and our former defense minister, was made by a rogue prosecutor who's trying to extricate himself from sexual harassment charges, and by biased judges who are motivated by anti-Semitic sentiments against the one and only Jewish state. These judges did nothing. They did nothing against the real war crimes committed against the millions who've been murdered or uprooted by the dictatorships in Iran, Syria, and Yemen. Instead, they falsely accused the one democracy in the Middle East, Israel, thereby imperiling the right of all democracies to defend themselves against murderous terrorists and tyrants. Nor did the court do anything against the Hamas terrorists who raped our women, beheaded our men, burned babies alive in front of their parents, and kidnapped hundreds of men, women, and children to the underground dungeons of Gaza. They're still holding 101 hostages, citizens of many lands, including the United States. Come to think of it, the court did issue one arrest warrant against Hamas. Now hear this. They issued an arrest warrant against the...
No, they issued multiple arrest warrants against Hamas. You just killed those guys. So the one remaining alive Hamas person also got issued an arrest warrant. Originally, the application for the arrest, it included more Hamas members. Problem is, you killed them.
The corpse of the Hamas arch-terrorist Mohammed Dev. His corpse. What an absurdity. No biased anti-Israel decision in The Hague will prevent the state of Israel from defending its citizens. And I want to thank our many friends around the world, especially those in the United States, who've condemned this outrage and who have said that this decision will have severe consequences for the ICC and those who cooperate with its decision.
Oh my God,
Israel will not recognize the validity of this decision. We will continue to do everything we must do to defend our citizens and defend our state against Iran's axis of terror, Iran and its terrorist proxies, which include Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others. Our enemies are your enemies, and our victory will be your victory, the victory of civilization over barbarism and tyranny.
The International Criminal Court has just issued
Nazi bitch. Suck my dick. Yeah, everyone is an anti-Semite, including all the Jewish people that participated in the prosecution of Benjamin Netanyahu and this war criminal tribunal and this war criminal prosecution. Everyone, including the Pope. The Pope is Hamas. It's just crazy. It's just crazy that, man, it's crazy that every single person that's always against Israel is just Hamas. It's wild. What a track record, dude. What a crazy track record. Wait, what do you mean Mike is low as fuck?
Issued arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, accusing them of war crimes in Gaza, and also for a top Hamas commander, also known as Mohammed Deif, who is believed to be dead. The court says it found reasonable grounds to believe the prime minister bears criminal responsibility for war crimes, including starvation as a method of warfare. And it rejected Israel's challenge of the court's jurisdiction over the matter. CNN's Nick Robertson joins us now from Jerusalem. Nick, what more can you tell us?
Well, this is a very, very significant escalation. It was first announced by Karim Khan, the ICC chief prosecutor, back in May, that he was going to seek to request arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant, who was the defense minister at the time, as well as 3 other senior Hamas officials, including Mohammed Deif, Ismail Haniyeh, Yahya Sinwar, the other. Those 3 are all dead. Deif believed to have been killed in July, so unclear why they've issued an arrest warrant now for him. But by overturning Israel's rejection of the jurisdiction and the allegations by the court, this clears the way for something very, very significant, which Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel have never, ever faced before. These are very, very serious charges and allegations.
Yeah, it's called consequences for your actions. Yeah, Israel's never faced them. Bitch.
As you read them out there, that the court believes they have grounds to believe that he bears criminal responsibility for war crimes, as you said, including starvation as a method of warfare and of crimes against humanity, of murder, persecution, and of other crimes. These are very, very serious allegations. These are not the sorts of allegations that the Prime Minister has faced before. When the ICC first made these statements back in May, the Prime Minister's office said that they were absurd, that they were false, and that they were a distortion of reality. It is something that back then the Prime Minister took very, very seriously. Has been in meetings today with the US mediator Amos Hochstein, talking about the possibility of a ceasefire with Hezbollah in Lebanon to the north. But this is absolutely now going to come front and center of the Prime Minister's attention here.
So this is very significant, Nick, but then what potentially could be next? Is this an issue of, depending on where Netanyahu were to travel, he could be apprehended, or is he asked to voluntarily cooperate?
Yeah, this is, it's uncharted territory for the Prime Minister. Certainly, we understand the legal implications for all the countries that support the ICC. These are countries that have signed what's known as the Rome Statute. 124 countries have signed up to the Rome Statute. That includes most European countries. There are other leaders, current and former, like Bashir of Sudan, who has essentially been on the lam from the ICC for several years since they issued an arrest warrant for him. An arrest warrant issued just in the past year or so for President Vladimir Putin of Russia, who continues to run his country and fight the war in Ukraine. But we have seen, in the case of Vladimir Putin, that there are countries that he has avoided visiting.
Thank you for saying that. Holy shit. It's serious enough that even Putin didn't go to South Africa. It's a serious enough threat.
Like South Africa for a BRICS summit, where potentially, because South Africa is a signatory to the Rome Statute, he could have technically been arrested and taken to The Hague. So will the same fate or limitations on travel face Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? It appears absolutely so. If he would have set foot today in the Netherlands or in the UK or in France, all signatories of the Rome Statute, he would be, or those countries at least, would be obligated to arrest him and turn him over to the ICC.
All right, and now we want to give you an update on this breaking news. The Israeli Prime Minister's office has just responded to the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants. Benjamin Netanyahu's office calls the warrants for him and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant absurd. The statement says Israel utterly rejects the absurd and false actions and accusations against it by the International Criminal Court, which is a politically biased and discriminatory body. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will not yield to pressure.
Countries like Iran or Russia are already outside of the sphere of influence of the United States of America. So it's not like they get, they've already designed their world around avoiding America's sphere of influence. Israel is not the same. Do you understand? It's very different for Israel.
Pressure will not back down and will not retreat until all the goals of the war set by Israel at the start of the campaign are achieved, end quote.
Now, we are following developments out of northern Gaza, where one medical official says Israel launched deadly strikes overnight on the city of Beit Lahia. A director of the Kamal Adwan Hospital says 65 bodies have been pulled from the rubble. He says doctors and medical staff are digging with their bare hands because there are no rescue teams and no ambulances to provide assistance. And he expects the death toll to rise. He's making a desperate request to international organisations to bring in much-needed medical supplies. Meanwhile, the US has vetoed a UN Security Council resolution that called for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in Gaza.
Will those in favour of the draft resolution contained in document S/2024-835 please raise their hand? Those against?
Well, only the US voted against the resolution on Wednesday. Ambassador Robert Wood said the US has made clear it could not support a ceasefire that failed to secure the release of hostages still being held by Hamas. Palestinian officials condemned the veto, saying the move only emboldens Israel to continue its crimes against innocent civilians. Sina's Paula Hancock's following.
I mean, that is the reason why they vetoed it. That's why they vetoed it.
Live developments for us from Abu Dhabi. And I guess underscoring the need for this ceasefire, Paula, if we can just go back, is what happened overnight in northern Gaza. By all accounts, an incredibly deadly and bloody night for Palestinians.
Yeah, Christina, this latest strike, which has claimed many lives, happened in Beit Lahia. This is in the northern part of Gaza. It's an area which has been, for those who have been living there, say it has been under siege for about 6 weeks now, since the Israeli military decided that they needed to carry out further military operations there because they believed that Hamas was regrouping in the area. So we have seen
the people on the ground say they're being murdered, but also Israel has to be there and murder them. By the way, the UN resolution directly mentioned the immediate release of hostages, the one that America vetoed. They don't have a leg to stand on. Pieces of shit.
Some very deadly strikes. We have seen some.
But in all seriousness, how much weight does the ICC carry? Chad, I've said this every day. Every step you take in the right direction, no matter how tiny it may seem, is moving history forward, okay? These sorts of things are incredibly meaningful. Will it change the trajectory overnight? Will it change the genocide tomorrow? No, but it does not matter. What you are watching is history unfolding. This is like historically incredibly relevant and very new events. This has not happened before. Believe me when I say that this is new. There's never been a moment where America's ally, like someone that America has defended so staunchly, has ever been in the crosshairs of international organs of justice. If you think it's insignificant, you're falling prey to what people want you to think, like what naysayers want you to feel like. This is a massively consequential decision. Does it mean that like overnight Benjamin Netanyahu gets arrested and goes to jail? No, of course not.
Desperate messages from Kamal.
Just moving in the right direction isn't enough. Children are dying right now. Dude, what are you talking about? I know. You think I don't know that? You think I don't know that? You think I'm oblivious? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? What the are you talking about? No, moving in the right direction is enough. It is important. Okay? I'm sorry that America's not invading Tel Aviv tomorrow. Okay? Just keep pressuring. What a stupid defeatist attitude to have. This kind of stuff is very significant because it further pushes Israel into being seen as a pariah state in the Western world. These are institutions that matter to a lot of liberals. Every single day that this sort of violence occurs, every single day that this happens, and more institutions say, yeah, no, it's done. You're a war criminal now, is another mechanism of pressure, is another moment, is another opportunity that you can use to convert others as well, to see the truth. Okay.
Adwan Hospital, for example, saying that they don't have what they need to be able to save lives. And this is what we're hearing again.
A lot of you are new. Like, a lot of you are new. All right. You're new. This is just unfolding in front of your eyes right now, and you're horrified, understandably, by the reality. Okay. But if you were aware of the way that things used to happen, the dynamic between Israel and Palestinians, if you were not oblivious to that 10 years ago, you would recognize what a different situation we're in right now. Okay? Never in my mind would I ever think, after 76 years of permanent occupation and apartheid, would international organs of justice actually take serious action against the state of Israel.
Airstrike hit a building near that hospital. The director of the hospital says some 200 people were sheltering there. He believes, or has been told at the time of the airstrike, and at least 65 people have been killed at this point. Now, he says that those are bodies that are brought into the hospital. They are also receiving injured, but he says that death toll is more than likely to rise. They don't have heavy equipment in this area. The Gaza Civil Defense is unable to operate in this area, and he says that doctors and medical staff are using their bare hands to try and find further casualties within the rubble itself. Now, we have asked the IDF about this strike specifically, but what they have said about previous strikes in this area is that this is where Hamas is operating, and they have been calling for civilians to evacuate the area. We heard from the IDF, they believe last week, they believed that in the previous weeks they had killed some 1,000 Hamas militants and detained 1,000 more. For those on the ground, though, it is a desperate situation. The director of Kamal Adwan Hospital telling us that there isn't a single ambulance in northern Gaza, and that at this point all they can do, and all they have been able to do, is offer first aid. They don't have the surgeons, the medical supplies to be able to offer any more. And certainly those injuries, he says, that are coming in need far more than first aid. Christina?
Yeah, it is truly a desperate situation. Paula Hancock's there live from Abu Dhabi. Thank you.
The world should not go.
Hey, Mr. We deserve 9/11. Did you know Osama bin Laden's mom was a Palestinian forcibly relocated to Syria? Or that his BFF mentor's family had to relocate during the 6-Day War? He was a psychopath and horrible to women, but a lot of context was never provided to American people? What? I don't give a Yeah, dude, you're right. 9/11 happened because of Palestinians, because Osama bin Laden wrote it.
So accustomed to the death of Palestinians, to seeing Palestinian children starving, to seeing mothers carrying their children from one place to another, forcibly displaced. They should not get accustomed to seeing journalists killed and humanitarians killed. To see Palestinians detained, abducted, carried on trucks, to go be tortured, sexually abused, and raped. The fact we are Palestinians does not make that less shocking or less outrageous. Maybe for some we have the wrong nationality, the wrong faith, the wrong skin color. But we are humans, and we should be treated as such. Is there a UN charter for Israel that is different from the charter you all have? Tell us. Is there an international law for them, an international law for us? Do they have the right to kill, and the only right we have is to die? What the hell does Israel need to do more for this council to act under Chapter 7? What more can they do for this council to act under Chapter 7? Or will this council be the last place on earth that cannot recognize a threat to peace when they see it, when it is so glaring, so undeniable? You are witnessing the attempt to annihilate a nation, destroy a nation. It is not even hidden. It is in plain sight. And yet the very tools designed to respond to these situations are not being used. So which one is it? Are Palestinian lives not worth saving? Or does Israel have a license to kill? I truly do not understand. And you're saying we cannot be for an unconditional ceasefire. What that means in effect now is that we are for a war.
Oh yeah, you want to see the Hamas militants, in air quotes, that they're arresting, by the way? Images like this happen in Gaza every night, by the way. Photos are circulating on social media alongside reports that the Israeli army is rounding up and blindfolding Palestinian doctors, nurses, and patients outside of the hospital in northern Gaza. Some of those detained are seen with catheter bags, nasogastric tubes, IV drips, and crutches. It's wild. To associate images like that with Judaism is so disgusting. Images that are invoking the Holocaust. To associate those acts of gross violence and barbarity with Judaism is unacceptable. So no matter how much my naysayers try to claim that Israel is actually the only safe space for Jews and all Jews care about is Israel and yada, 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 I will not allow it, and I will never agree with it. Shame on those who think that the former ways of decrying anti-Semitism in defense of Israel, that still think that people can't see right from wrong, that still think that you can just shame people into silence like this. This is how supporters are justifying these images. This is what defeat looks like. Massive Hamas surrender in northern Gaza last night. And before you ask, they're stripped down to their underwear so Israel can ensure they're not strapped with explosives. But also, every time I post a picture like this, all the social warriors come out to play with it. They are humans. They deserve dignity. Why does Israel have to humiliate them like this? Stupidity. So let me tell you something we learn from Jewish scripture. He who is compassionate to the evil will end up being evil to the compassionate. Like, this guy is literally, I mean, Nazis are salivating, okay? This is what I mean. Like, trying to associate these inhumane acts that are akin to the Holocaust, images that we saw for the Holocaust, with Judaism is a wonderful gift to every neo-Nazi in the Western world, okay? Like, that's crazy. These genocidal maniacs deserve zero compassion. I don't think I need to remind you what Hamas did on October 7th. Fix your moral compass. 30K likes. Yeah. Oh, yes. And there are people of all ages here because there are people of all ages in Hamas. They've recruited women, children, old men, and everyone else who wants to kill Jews. Yeah, these guys were doctors and patients, by the way. These are people that they stripped, humiliated, packed up, specifically to send to the concentration camp where some of them will be raped to death, okay? Anyway, let's finish.
Say we cannot be for an unconditional ceasefire that does not release the hostages. Is this war releasing the hostages? Is it even trying to release the hostages? So what does it mean? We accept this war that is killing hostages and that is killing, maiming, terrorizing, destroying an entire nation. When is it enough? When is it the point where we say, no, we mean ceasefire now?
Does this guy speak Hebrew? I know he's a Palestinian Authority guy, but it's really interesting how he says his R's. It's not, I know many Palestinians do, but his accent sounds more Israeli than Arab. But he is a Palestinian Authority guy, so West Bank might have had a Israeli teacher, like an Israeli English teacher, and that's why he sounds like that. Just something interesting.
Now, we will not allow you to not listen to us, to ignore us, to insult us.
Like, he has an Arabic accent, but then when he says his R's, it sounds like Hebrew.
To play games with us. This resolution is trying to restore life, to save lives. It's not a dangerous message. The draft resolution is not a dangerous message. This veto is a dangerous message to Israel that it can continue executing its plans, the very plans you oppose. What does it mean? That release of the hostages should be unconditional? This is what the Council has said repeatedly now for a year. Release of hostages should be unconditional. But stopping killing Palestinians is conditional? There are acceptable conditions to stop the mass killing of Palestinians? Israel will always claim conditions have not been met because its plans require it to continue this war, to annex the land and destroy the people. And therefore, we can no longer accept its conditions. 14 months, and we are still debating if a genocide must be stopped. There's no justification whatsoever for vetoing a resolution trying to stop atrocities. No justification for that.
What happened on the Senate floor. Independent Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders speaking ahead of Wednesday's Senate vote to block the sale of U.S. tank rounds, bomb kits, and other lethal weapons to Israel. The measure did fail, but 18 other senators joined Sanders to stop arming Israel.
I've heard members of the U.S. Senate come to this floor to denounce human rights violations taking place around the world. I've heard well-founded concerns about China's brutal reception of the Uyghur ethnic minority. I've heard rightful outrage about Putin's brutal...
Bernie, you can't say that, bro. What the f? That's crazy. Bernie said there's hella white guys with ankle shorts in Xinjiang wearing like fitted caps riding high on the brim. Ohio gas station Andes. Zoomers won't know this one. There was a term for, back in the day, there was a term for dudes who dressed a particular way. It's basically the N-word, but with a W. That's what he said. Literally, the word he said is the N-word with a W. He's trying to say Uyghur. Insane clown posse fans.
Attacks against Ukraine and bombing of civilian installations. I've heard genuine...
He's courting the attention of dudes who still use synthetic weed, yeah.
...concern about Iran's outrageous crackdown on peaceful protesters. I've heard repeated condemnations of Saudi Arabia's terrible treatment of women and political dissidents. And on it goes. A lot of folks come to the floor to talk about human rights and what's going on throughout the world. But what I want to say to all those folks, nobody is going to take anything you say with a grain of seriousness. You cannot condemn human rights around the world and then turn a blind eye to what the United States government is now funding in Israel. People will laugh in your face. They will say to you, you're concerned about China, you're concerned about Russia, you're concerned about Iran. Well, why are you funding the starvation of children in Gaza right now?
So that's Senator Bernie Sanders. While this move did fail, it was the largest grouping of senators to vote against arming Israel. Akbar Shaher Ahmed, if you can talk about the significance of this and the latest piece you did on what happened in the White House and how they were threatening these senators. Your exclusive White House says Democrats who oppose weapons to Israel are aiding Hamas.
Absolutely, Amy. And I'll just start by noting that what Ambassador Bamia and Senator Sanders said that really speaks to the salience of this issue, right, and why it's not going away, something that the Biden administration has failed to grapple with. In their thinking, they think, well, people will get over this like they've gotten over foreign policy slights and missteps by the U.S. before. I think this is a fundamentally different issue. And what the Biden administration tried to do to kind of not just tackle and continue support for Israel, but to reject scrutiny and kind of threaten senators was really striking yesterday. So the exclusive I got that you were talking about was a document from the White House that they prepared and sent to Capitol Hill on Tuesday, 24 hours before the vote, where essentially they said, if you vote against weapons for Israel, you as United States senators are supporting Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. Now, that's the kind of accusation and rhetoric that observers say is reminiscent of the Bush administration, right? You're with us or you're against us. And that's the kind of...
Yeah, because American foreign policy is uniparty. And it's so funny that the same liberals that in the Bush era would have been firmly in opposition of this kind of sentiment, like if you don't like it, leave, or you're supporting the terrorists, are without even a shred of irony. Fragile ego, fragile body, weak mind, weak spirit, Hasan. Are you talking about me or are you talking about Joe Biden? The very same liberals that originally would have been grossed out by, like in the first Trump administration, the type of shit that people were saying, like, you know, the Steven Crowders of the world, like saying unimaginably racist, xenophobic, saying stuff like, oh, just leave the country if you don't like it, all this stuff, right, are now repeating those statements. Like, it's shocking. Let's keep going. All right. Gates is officially withdrawn from Attorney General. But before we do Matt Gaetz, I do want to talk about the way that people have responded, on the American side to this story. Here's what the White House press secretary had to say about the ICC and its jurisdiction over Israel.
I wanted to ask you also about the ICC's issuing arrest warrants for several top officials, including Netanyahu, over Israel's conduct in this war. I know that the U.S. rejected this decision. Does the administration see this ruling as a threat to Israel's ability to defend itself? And also,
they coming for you, Hasan, beware. Why do people say stuff like this in my chat?
Hearing that Attorney General nominee, former Congressman Matt Gaetz has...
Sorry.
Republican Senator Lindsey Graham is calling for the Senate to sanction the ICC after this decision. Is that a measure that the White House would support?
Yeah, so a couple things. Let me just say, because this is the first time I've had an opportunity to speak to this at the podium, so let me just say more broadly that we fundamentally reject the court's decision to issue arrest warrants for senior Israel officials. We remain deeply concerned by the prosecutor's rush to seek arrest warrants and the troubling process errors that led to this decision. The United States has been clear that the ICC does not have jurisdiction over this matter. You've heard us say this before. Whatever this prosecutor might imply, there is no evidence, none, between Israel and Hamas. There's just none. In coordination.
I just want to point out something that Felix also pointed out, which is everyone laughed at that stupid-ass Tom Cotton post, but the White House's position is pretty much identical. I really hope for nothing but the absolute worst for anyone still working in this administration.
Partners.
And it's correct. It's like there is virtually no different function with what Karine Jean-Pierre is saying here than fucking Tom Cotton. The only difference, I guess, or the only important difference, I guess, is that Tom Cotton is like openly dropping all pretense of civility and is just like, we're gonna bomb you, like we're gonna bomb the Netherlands.
With partners, including Israel, we are discussing.
Is Biden, she's doing her job? Well, first of all, she's doing a fucking job to begin with. She's never been good at her job, so make no mistake. I've never, even when, there's never been a moment where I've actually thought Karine Jean-Pierre was doing a good job. And secondly, I still don't give a shit, okay? Oh, she's just following orders, chat? Yeah, okay, resign. Have some grace, have some dignity.
Certainly those next steps, but that's going to look like, and to your question about sanctions, that's basically kind of just answered it in that last part of what I said. We're in consultation with our partners and also, which include Israel, about our next steps. We fundamentally reject that the ICC has jurisdiction over the situation. And so that's something that we've been pretty clear about and will continue to do so.
Calling a black woman a DEI pig is wild. Point to the part where I said that. Her being black has no basis in this. She just sucks at her job. And she has always sucked at her job. Why do you choose to hallucinate what the I'm not saying instead of just listening to what I am saying? It's very annoying. Do you do this because you hope that maybe someone will clip this from the chat and be like, wow, I can't believe Hasan said that? Bot. 90% of my haters just imagine what I'm saying and then just get mad at their own imagination. Like, hey, sorry, man. I just hallucinated you saying something and it was pretty up. The thing I hallucinated you saying. Let's get back to it. Tracking state reactions to the ICC arrest warrants against Netanyahu, Gallant, and Dave. Methodology notes. Except for key actors, Israel, Palestine, US, I will only track MFA, HOS, and HOG statements. Simple retweets of the ICC press releases are not counted. Israel said dark moment. Foreign minister said dark moment at the International Criminal Court, The Hague, and has lost all legitimacy. This is a dark day for justice, says Israel's president Isaac Herzog, who is anti-miscegenation. Taken in bad faith, outrageous decision of the ICC turned universal justice into universal laughingstock. It makes a mockery of the sacrifice of all those who fight justice from the Allied victory over the Nazis till today. Invoking the Nazis while you are the Nazis is crazy work. Okay. Absolutely crazy work. I think that overall, if the International Criminal Court had not taken this stance, then they would be a laughingstock for many people. Maybe not the institutions, but for many people. You should talk more about being educated in a country that teaches genocide denial at school and how you can overcome that by shedding whatever sort of cultural entitlement and reinforces seeing and empathizing with others. I think it's very relevant to the world at present. Yeah, I don't know what my turning point was, but I always thought like that it just seemed not great reasoning at best, even from an early age. And this chatter is talking about the Armenian genocide, which is, taught as a falsehood in Turkey. So I feel like it's probably similar to the way that like the indigenous genocide is taught in some schools in America, maybe. You know what I mean? Where you just kind of look at it and you're like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. This doesn't really add up, But I won't say that if I could do it, then so could you to everyone living in Israel. You know what I mean? Your parents left this? No. Israeli ambassador was on Sky News. He said 1 Hamas per minute.
Well, after the ICC's decision, I put their...
Let's go.
Well, after the ICC's decision, I put their claims of war crimes to Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon.
When you look at the past resolutions of the ICC, for the first time in history, you have a resolution against a democracy. In the past, the UN
I love these guys.
To to apply those decisions against murderers, against regimes where there was no democracy, no judiciary systems. But Israel is a strong democracy. We have our own institution, and the fact that they chose to side with the terrorists, that's shameful, and it proves that they use double standards. So when you use double standards against Israel, you show that you are biased, and that's why we call the countries not to collaborate with this shameful resolution. And I believe that the U.S. will make it very clear in the near future that the U.S. will ban the ICC, will apply sanctions against the ICC, and against those who will collaborate with this ridiculous resolution.
One of the accusations from the ICC is that civilians are being deliberately targeted. Is that untrue?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the fact that the war takes for so long, that is because we maneuver with a lot of caution. We abide to international law, and we could have finished this war much, much faster. But
what does that mean? What do you mean? No, he's like revealing, he's betraying the position that he wants to take, which is that Israel is not doing a genocide. But then when he turns around and says, like, we could have finished this war much faster if we didn't have to abide by these standards, you're openly admitting that it's a genocide, dumbass. Like, that's it. Like, the intent, this is intentionality, that you're revealing the intent. We have to abide by international law so we can't finish the war faster. This is the quilt, yes. He's literally saying the intent of the war is to be rid of all Palestinians? Yeah. Okay. I don't want to watch this loser any further. A threat of states that have said they will honor and or welcome ICC warrants issued for Israeli officials Netanyahu and Gallant. Netherlands is ready to enforce the ICC warrant against Netanyahu. The Netherlands obviously respects the independence of the ICC. We are obliged to cooperate with the ICC and will do that. We abide 100% by the Rome Statute. French Foreign Ministry says France will implement the ICC's warrants. Belgium, Deputy Prime Minister calls for sanctions against Israel too. Whew! South Africa, of course, welcomes the ICC's recent warrants for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Jordan's Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi says the decision for the warrants must be respected and implemented. No, Jordan failed in this regard when they did in effect an ICC arrest warrant for Sudan's Omar al-Bashir in 2017. European Union, EU Foreign Affairs Chief Joseph Borrell F. says decisions of the court have to be implemented and all 27 EU member states must enforce it. Oh my God.
And Jordan. Jordan is an indispensable partner.
Ireland is a strong supporter of the ICC and calls on all states to respect its independence and impartiality, with no attempts made to undermine the court. Hungary, worth noting, states that are willing to disgrace themselves at such a crucial period and epoch, despite overwhelming evidence that justifies the warrants. Oh, Hungary says no. Palestine, we welcome the announcement by the foreign minister. Israel, of course, is very much against it. Dark moment for the International Criminal Court. All right. Yeah. But Viktor Orban, excuse me, chat. People who say Viktor Orban is not significant, that's his favorite. That's Donald Trump's favorite. Viktor Orban loves me.
The tragedy in Gaza has to stop. And now I will be very sober in my comment. It is not a political decision. It is a decision of a court of justice, of an international court of justice. And the decision of the court has to be respected and implemented. So I take note of the decision of the International Criminal Court to issue arrest warrants from Prime Minister Netanyahu, the former Minister of Defense, Mr. Gallant, and the Hamas leaders, Dave. This decision...
It's pretty sick that liberal institution lovers can't stop themselves from abiding by rules. You know what I mean? It is pretty funny.
It's a binding decision, and all states parties of the court, which include all members of the European Union, are binding to implement this court decision.
Javier Milei said he will not respect it. Yeah. Wow. I'm shocked that Argentina would offer safe haven to fascist war criminals. Wow. America, Argentina, Hungary. This is literally the post-World War II nightmare rotation, dude. That's awesome. Guys, color me surprised that Argentina said, excuse me, we have a long history. We have a long standing tradition of offering safe haven to Nazi perverts, okay? And it does not matter. This will not change. Oh my God. Never asked an Argentinian German grandpa what he was doing between 1933 and 1945. Nope. If I had a nickel for every time Hungary, the United States, and Argentina offer refuge to fascist war criminals, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird having had twice. I mean, it's especially Argentina and America. Okay. Yes, Canada also supports the ICC. As far as the Trump Mar-a-Lago ambulance story goes, unfortunately, nothing cool. Nothing cool happened over there. Israel indicts a Netanyahu aide over a leaked document on Hamas. Israeli prosecutors indicted one of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's aides on Thursday, charging the aide with leaking classified information on Hamas and most likely harming national security. The latest development in a web of scandals, illegal scandals that has entangled the country's leader. Eliezer Feldstein, a media advisor in the Prime Minister's office, deliberately acquired and illegally leaked a top secret document to Bild, the German tabloid, in an attempt to influence how the Israeli public viewed negotiations for a deal to reach a ceasefire and free the roughly 100 hostages still held by Hamas. The leak exposed Israeli intelligence capabilities to Hamas, which was likely to harm national security and the functioning of security agencies. It would also likely put people in life-threatening danger, particularly at a time of war. Yeah. Wait, am I crazy? Or did this happen like last week, but not for Bild, but for Jewish Currents? Or not Jewish Currents, Jewish Insider. I've besmirched the good reputation of my colleague, Noah Colwyn's former established Jewish Chronicle, not Jewish Insider. Yeah. No, you're saying the leakers ago? No, they don't leak information to the Jewish Insider or Bild because they want to compromise national security. They leak it because they want to manipulate the international community's attitude in favor. The leaker did it to hurt the deal? Yeah. Yeah. You think Benjamin Netanyahu's aides are going to leak national security secrets in an effort to like hurt Benjamin Netanyahu? No, they were collaborating, brother. They were not leaking that information completely separate from Benjamin Netanyahu. They were probably leaking that shit. If you see like a Jewish Insider or an article from like Jewish Chronicle or an article from Bild or an article from New York Post, these are not reputable papers. These are papers that are firmly engaged in doing Hasbara and many other, pick and choose right-wing opinions, right? Like these are right-wing newspapers in general, but they also serve that purpose of like getting certain information to the Western audience, getting certain information to Western audiences that might spoil a deal. Why are you pretending to be brown? What do you mean? Brother, I'm a white man. I don't know what the you're talking about, but anyway, good stuff. I just wanted to briefly touch on some of these rabid freaks and the way that they're talking about this. Okay. Here's an ICC issuing a warrant for Russia versus ICC issuing a warrant for Israel. I hope the international community will continue to support the ICC in their endeavors to hold Putin accountable for the brutal invasion of Ukraine, says Lindsey Graham. Okay. While I have no illusions that Putin will ever turn himself in, this arrest warrant is extremely significant because it's an action of an international evidence-based body that will stand the test of history. It will also make Putin's travel options in the future very limited. Okay, let's take a look at what he had to say when it's Israel. The International Corrupt Criminal Court has acted in the most absurd and irresponsible manner possible by issuing arrest warrants against the Prime Minister and former Defense Minister of Israel, while there is a serious cloud of allegations hanging over the prosecutor who sought these warrants. The court is a dangerous joke. It is now time for the U.S. Senate to act and sanction this irresponsible body. The court defied every concept of fundamental fairness and legitimized the corrupt prosecutor's actions. What's really interesting is I haven't heard from Donald Trump on this.
I've never been more worried about our people than I am right now. What they're doing against Israel reeks of politics, and the system at the ICC is corrupt at its core.
He looks like he's been crying.
How in the world can you legitimize the work product of somebody you believe needs to be investigated?
Does ICC still have Jews of countries like Hungary and South Africa and blatantly say they ignore it? Wait, what are you talking about? South Africa? When the does South Africa say they are ignoring the ICC? They're ignoring the ICC. They're not ignoring the ICC. They're so in favor with the ICC that they have a separate case a genocide case against Israel, against the state of Israel in the International Court of Justice, TLDR, to President Biden, President Trump, and current and future members of Congress. We could be next. That's a good way to look at it. Yes. Of course, that would never happen. But then again, I never thought in my lifetime I would see Israel ever be prosecuted by a Western-backed instrument of justice. So Israel's not a member of the ICC, nor is the United States. Israel is a very robust legal system, and so does the United States. If we do not fight back against ICC's attacks on Israel, it is as if we are conceding that they have jurisdiction over the United States. Oh my God. Dude. Anti-Semitic stock is rising at an alarming rate, okay? Like, my man literally... Dude, what? Dude, why? Why do you guys do this? Do you have no interest? Do you not see the writing on the wall? I just don't get it. I don't get it. Like, every day there's another rabid anti-Semite born out of the ashes of America's collapse. It's the same exact principle behind just consistently looking at all the slaughtered babies and going, Jews love that, actually. And if you say that that's bad, you hate Jews. How do you not understand that you are not only saying something deeply anti-Semitic, but you're also like you're making people think that this is something that is valid. This way of thinking is valid. You're validating underlying anti-Semitic tendencies that people have. Oh my God. We cannot let the world believe for a moment that this is a legitimate exercise of jurisdiction by the court against Israel, because to do so means we could be next. Yes. South Africa for the ICC warrant? No, that was Jordan. And no, they didn't ignore it with Putin either. They told Putin not to come. Oh my God. Neek Skit, you changed your name, but your stupidity still remains. I'll be introducing legislation that puts other countries on notice. If you aid and abet the ICC after their action against the state of Israel, you can expect consequences from the United States. Any nation, dude, evil, okay? Just straight up, this is just bad guy shit, okay? This is summarized as bad guy shit. Good guys don't say this stuff, okay? Oh, South Africa did avoid the warrant with Sudan. They did so by withdrawing from the Rome Statute for like 6 months in 2016. My bad, the Neek Skit. I apologize. I'll give you this one. I thought you were mistaken, Jordan, for South Africa.